Hi, team. Welcome to How Women Win, a conversation today about figuring it out our way. We have a guest that's a friend of mine and somebody that I admire greatly. It is a woman that is out there figuring out how to win, doing great work. And so, Nona, welcome and thank you for joining us. Love to hear the power of your story.
Hi, Carla. Thank you so much for having me today. My story is, I refer to it often as a long and winding road, but I don't know that it's so much that as it is. It's been an interesting journey, and the newest part of that is that after 22 years as the chief legal, not necessarily that title, but leading the Arizona Diamondbacks legal department, I recently decided to resign to start my own diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting firm, which was a tough decision in as much as I love my legal practice. But a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity with the Diamondbacks to start leading their DEI efforts, and I should say diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I will refer to as DEI, the acronym. And I realized I knew that I was passionate about the issues before, but I came to understand that I was passionate about doing the work and doing it in a way that I hope can affect change. I mean, I feel like we have an opportunity now for movement in this space. I'm also a big believer that I have not accomplished what I have in my life just to line my pockets or enjoy life or live a good life. And I think there's a reason that I've had the opportunities that I've had, starting with, switching directions about 10 years after college and going to law school to join a law firm as a litigator. And, then finding that, as a former college basketball player, the WNBA started, and being driven by my passion for sports to merge that with my practice and going in-house, actually not initially going in-house with the sports team, but getting the job with a firm who represented sports teams after being told I was unqualified to work in-house as a lawyer because I needed to be a transactional attorney and I was a litigator. And so I was so determined to make this change that I started over as a transactional associate at a firm that represented the teams. And after 4 years of litigating and in very short order, was lucky enough to go in-house with the Suns after being, told a really quick story. I don't want to spend too much time here, but when I was trying to figure out how to get into sports, I spoke with the woman who was the general counsel at the Suns at the time, and she's the one who told me, you're not qualified. What we do is transactional in nature. And that's why I decided to start over. Well, about a week after I accepted the offer from the firm that was letting me start over as a transactional associate, they invited me down to talk to them, which totally freaked me out. And what could they want? They told me that the woman who I'd spoken with was leaving the Suns, wonderful woman, and asked if I wanted to interview for her job, which she just told me I was unqualified for. Yeah. So I said, absolutely. And went through the process, did not get the job, but did a couple of months later, they created an offer to me the number 2 position. So, I was lucky to get into sports. And even then I thought it's not about me, right? It's about, I'm here for a reason. And I knew that if it weren't for my participation in sports, I would not have achieved the things in my life that I had. And so decided to create a nonprofit to empower other girls and women through sports, the Phoenix Women's Sports Association, because I figured if that was true for me, it was true for others. And I wanted to use what platform I had at that point in time to help others. And so this switch at this time for me is not unusual in the sense that I feel there's something, I had a great practice, a great run at the Diamondbacks, but there's something calling me to do something greater and more meaningful, impactful at this point in my life. And hopefully, I have a platform due to my experience and my years, and I want to use it to help people, change and recognize how important it is to be diverse, equitable, inclusion, and to value your employees and give them that sense of belonging that the payoff for that is innovation and increased productivity and ultimately increased revenue. So that's the rambling version of my story.
Yeah, no. Why has it taken us so long? And why are we still in the process of not realizing the not only cultural benefit, but the fiscal benefit of diversity and inclusion?
That's $1 million question. And I think the answer is fear. And fear of so many things: fear of losing something, fear of being uncomfortable, fear of having to confront what it feels like to admit that maybe we could be better, do better, and then what it may cost us. And well, what if it doesn't work? What if I lose business? There are so many reasons that people shift to, which are legitimate concerns for them, but they're not willing to look beyond that at the benefits. And so one of the parts of doing DEI work, is to talk about the business case, right? That's certainly a part of it. There's like, is it the right thing to do? Is it the business case? Well, often it's both. And sometimes to get people to move, you need to lead with that, because in explaining this, it really can, doing the right thing isn't enough to get you to move. Here are the benefits. And this is, research from the Harvard Business Review, from McKinsey and others. And so it's real. This is real. And the reality of our world today is, especially given the pandemic, things have changed. People's values have changed, what they're willing to put up with, so to speak, from a societal and social perspective has changed. And we also have a new generation coming up that is not okay with the status quo, right, and isn't afraid to take risk and move around and go where they feel valued and where they feel people are doing the right thing and care about people and causes as much as they do their bottom lines.
Well, and Nona, what's fascinating about the work that you're now doing is that you have always been on a journey of giving back, and here's what I've got. How can I be a change agent with it? As we talk about our journey as women, what are you seeing as the differences of the societal change that we want, as well as the change that we want women to step into and to really own their power?
Well, what I'm seeing is that more and more women are stepping into that, and I'm so happy to see that. I certainly come from a time, or was born during a time where we talk about generational shift. There was a generational shift then where women weren't as, prevalent in the workplace, and certainly not as predominant. And I've seen that shift, certainly with more women not just being in the workplace, but preparing themselves for and demanding opportunities to move up in their career and being willing to move on when those opportunities don't exist. And so what I have seen is, thanks to all of the things that you're doing and the way that we support each other, and we talk about these opportunities and empowering ourselves and each other, and hopefully pulling each other up. I have seen more women be willing to take the risk to step into things or try for things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. I've also seen women, I think we tend to suffer far more from imposter syndrome than men. But I feel like that's starting to change. And, that's certainly something I talk myself through. But I talk to a lot of young women and try to remind them that, we all go through that. Everyone does, for women, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult because of the messages we've received over our lives. And so it's difficult to reverse that. So, my message is, you belong wherever you want to be. And even if you're, don't let fear stop you. And if you're dealing with imposter syndrome, act as if, to get you there. You have to, and if you can't believe in yourself, let someone else believe in you, but at least step into it and come to it from a framework of what's the worst that can happen, and often it's, there's nothing fatal. And I have found that as difficult as mistakes are, or losses are, or rejection is, there are always lessons to be found there. And so it's never a waste of time or a wasted opportunity. It's an opportunity to grow. And I also believe strongly that things happen exactly the way they're supposed to. And so if it's meant to be, it will be. And if you don't get something that you're going for right in that minute, it's because it's not meant for you then. It's not because there's anything wrong with you. So we as women, I think, need to stop taking things, I hate to say personally, but kind of personally, right? Where we feel responsible for, for things that aren't necessarily our fault. And I think we need to remember that if we prepare ourselves and we show up and we do our best and things don't go as we plan, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with us. There may be opportunities to improve and shift and change, but that's not a reflection on who we are as people and the value that we bring to the world and to business in particular.
Yeah, and so many of the people that I work with, I'm with the American Volleyball Coaches Association, and it's interesting to listen to the reasons that people give to me when they don't get a job. And this is a stereotype alert because it's not completely true, but it is a pattern. It is the guys that don't get a job and go, oh yeah, I mean, I was just way overqualified. And the gals that don't get a job that go, I just don't have any idea. I'm qualified for this. I must have screwed up the interview, or is there something wrong with my resume? Or, I mean, it's just the approach. Have you seen that in the work that you do?
I have seen that in the work that I do. And it's unfortunate because we do need to reframe that for ourselves and also understand that even though things are getting better, there are often those unconscious biases that are working against us. And occasionally there are things, there's nothing we could have done. I mean, that's what diversity, equity, inclusion is about, right? That's what why the training is needed, to help people understand how those conscious biases work to keep people from historically underrepresented groups from gaining access to the same opportunities. And it may not be intentional, but it's impactful nonetheless. And so, as women, we need to be aware of that phenomenon. And part of that is knowing the company well, that you're, applying for a position with, or that you're looking for promotion from, and understanding, knowing what your value is. And again, going in with that confidence. And, we are not men. And I'm grateful for that, because we're pretty special, and we need that diversity. Nothing against men, but we bring something special to the table as women, and we need to step into that, understand the value and the power of that, and take it with us into the workplace and into our pursuit of these opportunities, and sell the innovation based on our experiences that we bring to the table that are unique, and that they will be missing if they're not there.
And so unpack that a little bit more, because I think, there is this push and pull that, hey, the way that you make it in a male dominated workplace is you become one of them, is you just, maybe you're dressed differently, or you wear a skirt or whatever, but this is how the workplace works. This is how the communication goes. This is how the teasing goes. And so you take that on, and as opposed to that women are bringing something that is unique and different. Talk about that.
We don't need to become them. What we need to what I think is helpful in the way that I show up and have shown up in the workplace is as the best version of myself as I can bring, but I have to be authentic. And, I need to be comfortable as I can in the environment that I'm in and understand that I belong there. So that's not to say that you're not in uncomfortable environments, because they're typically, or often can be, male dominated, white male dominated, and old boys club. And so how do you fit into that? And I think, first of all, the most important part is showing up. And as the best version of yourself, as the best person to be doing the job, do your work well. And, I'm trying to think of an artful way to say this without, sounding militant, but, being willing to be your own ally in the sense that, you stand up and say what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, or find ways to address things if it can't be head on like that. That let people know that this isn't acceptable, and I'll use a very basic example. Back when I was litigating, in the last century, what really was the last century.
BC,
I often,
COVID.
yeah, COVID. I was a young woman lawyer. As back in the days when you still had to wear skirts and, stockings and all that everywhere. And I often, I would go into a deposition and walk in the room, and opposing counsel would be, could you please get me a cup of coffee, while we're waiting to start the deposition. And my response would be, I can't, but I will find someone who can get that for you, but let's talk about the rules of the deposition, or how we're going to, whatever it was, and redirect it and just say, without being rude, that's not who I am. Right. This is who I am. This is my value. This is what we're going to do. So just sort of shifting that narrative and finding ways that you're comfortable doing that, and letting them know that that's not okay. And I belong here. Here is what I do. And, be the best that you are, and the best that you can be prepared. I mean, we do have to work harder and, be more prepared. And that's not a bad thing. Right.
So Nona, there is and it's actually been put into a word, I guess, or it's a podcast, so that means it must be relevant, but called code switching. So it is going into situations and adapting to the situation with speech. I mean, probably the most common way that we see it is people with family, in their families. I mean, when I go to my husband's family, they talk to each other in certain ways that are, where they, which are different from the way that he interacts with me. Let's just put it that way. And I've heard it, I've seen it with some of my employees where they're on the phone with somebody, and I'm close enough where I'm overhearing it. And I can tell whether they're talking to a family member, or I can tell whether they're talking to a Black person, whether they're talking to a white person. I can tell by their speech. Do you believe that code switching in that way is inauthentic, or is that a way to adapt to environments?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm very familiar with the phenomenon, because certainly, I experience that when I'm with my family, and, I have a very different vernacular and approach to the way that we connect. And I think it depends on the person, right? Because I think in that sense, and in the sense of your husband's family, it's very authentic. Right, because
they slide back into that.
Exactly. Yeah. So in that sense, it's authentic. And so this is an important point. When you're trying to fit into that culture where you are the other, is that the other part of it is being authentic, right? By forcing yourself to try to speak their language.
Right. To say, I care about you, so I'm going to try and adapt here.
Well,
so that you'll feel comfortable, or did I get it wrong?
No, I'm actually saying the opposite.
Okay.
Which is that we need to show up as our authentic selves. In that being inauthentic in that way, for example, in a business setting, if you're trying to you're talking to a Black person, so you change your vernacular to what you think it is they want. That is inauthentic,
Right.
and that will backfire. As opposed to just whoever, be your authentic self. And in the family situation you talked about, when you're, going back with your family, you slide back into that vernacular because that's authentic for you or for your husband, right?
Right.
But to get on the phone with the Black person and try to speak in a vernacular that you think makes them comfortable is
no,
that.
maybe it's a bad example, but where I'm going is there are ways sometimes it's English usages things, okay? And my mother is sitting right here on my shoulder right now because she was always correcting our grammar. And, she's gone now, but she gave me that gene. And so I hear myself doing that with some of my younger employees. It's like, no, it's me instead of I, or it's I instead of me, or whatever. And there's things that are just, I guess, ways of communicating.
I think
I'm not being very clear. I apologize.
And to me, that's the flip side, really. And it still comes down to authenticity. But when you're talking to your young employees and there's an angel on your shoulder, the grammar angels, you're really trying to help them from a professional perspective, professional development. So I think there's a way to approach that while still allowing them to be who they are authentically.
Yes.
So it's not about trying to change the person or tell them that who they are is inappropriate. It's, trying to help them develop in a business sense. And that's very different. But there needs to be room for them to be authentic as well. And, professionalism is important. So I think,
Gotcha.
that's the key. Authentic in their professionalism.
So Nona, I want to talk about the value that we feel for ourselves, value and belief. And what have you noticed in terms of your journey from working with athletes and being in the professional world, and also the great nonprofit that you founded about helping girls? What have you noticed about how we can really respect and own our value?
That's a great question. And for me, Carla, it goes back to PWSA. I mean, I think we all find our power in different ways. And, as you know, for me, it was through participation in sports, and that's true for a lot of people. But, it's like, where do you tap into that power for yourself? And that can come from different places for different people. But I think it's important for us to find that place, realize what it is for ourselves, and tap into that as we're trying to move into other places or get the confidence to do something. For me, it was thinking about, one of the great lessons I learned, first as an AAU swimmer and water polo player, and then as a, basketball player through college, was, the ability to get in the game and understanding I'm not always going to win, and that's okay. But what can I do differently next time? And so that's the perspective from which, that's my power, right? Is to tap into that, those things I learned as an athlete and translate them into business, and realize that there's really nothing to be lost, because there's a victory in the conclusion of every game, whether it's a win or a loss, right? There's something to be taken from it. So I think that for all of us, it's a matter of tapping into that for us, that which, maybe it was how the confidence you found in playing music, or, whatever that space was that made you feel empowered and helped you to tap into whatever your magic is.
Yeah.
To get you to the next place, whether it's being a great musician and having the courage to participate in recitals and, doing that sort of thing, or if you are just an excellent reader and have that degree of focus and recall, and you bring that particular skill, whatever it is, it's tapping into that and knowing what gives you strength and owning it and translating that and using that to build your confidence in different situations, because who you were in that space, you still are.
Yeah.
We carry it with us. Sometimes we forget about it when we think, well, this isn't swimming. But it's still, you are still that person who was the swimmer or whatever it was that you did, or where you found that power, where you felt your strength.
I want to really honor kind of going with that, because you're a risk taker and you are going for it. And you started in the power of your story saying that you're ready for next. You really feel like this is a moment in time that you are ready to be part of the change, and you've always been part of the change. What words of wisdom would you tell to other women so that they have the courage to lean in and go for it?
Trust yourself. And that's the biggest thing. Trust yourself, and be smart, be strategic. It's important to do that, but be strategic, do your planning, but also trust yourself and know that you got where you are for a reason, and that you're good at what you do, and own that and trust it, and know that you can be strategic and build that into doing whatever it is that you want to do. So we all need to find ways to really understand how phenomenal we are. I mean, I had a hard time with that. I used to, early in my career, when I used to tell my story, I would say things like, I don't know why, but they offered me the job at the Suns. And, why we can reframe that about ourselves. They offered it to me because I was the right person for the job, and because I was good at what I did and I was passionate. So we need to start owning that, our abilities, and being proud of ourselves, and not in the way that men do, but in the way that we should as women, in the way that we nurture our friends and our children, give ourselves that, in the way that we encourage them. We need to do that for ourselves.
My experience is that the difficulty of that, particularly among groups of women, is that we frequently punish each other for standing out. Oh, she thinks she's better than we are. Oh, she just wants to be the star. Oh, she has to win all the time. These are negatives. And so tell us, how do we lean in to our abilities and in our truth and what we think our value is, without and avoid that buzzsaw or
lose a friend, or have them think that we're better than them.
I think if we do it from a place of transparency and authenticity and kindness, it's not altruistic. For me, it's never been all about me. It's about, who can I bring along? How can I make space for others, right? And so if you are like-minded, then think about how you can accomplish what you need to and want to accomplish, but at the same time, in a way that isn't threatening. And I don't want to say isn't threatening to other people, because you shouldn't have to worry about other people, but keeping in mind that dynamic, and that we need to support each other, and finding ways to make space for others and along the way, and build relationships with women. And I look, some of the biggest challenges I've had in business have been with other women,
right?
Because that dynamic is real, but we don't have to play into it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can't control what other people think, but we can control how we respond to it. And that's why I talk about authenticity and kindness, right? Because we don't have to feed into the dynamic. We don't have to get defensive about it. We can just show up as ourselves, do our job, and then still be, build those relationships, reach out, try to be kind, try to be inclusive, and try to be each other's allies, even when others are afraid that you're not going to be. And let them fight that internal battle themselves, because by feeding into it, it's only going to make things escalate and be worse, and leave the impression that women can't get along in the workplace,
Right.
and feed into that stereotype.
So when we think about women and well-being, and taking risk and imposter syndrome and identity management, just all these things that we're wrestling with, how have you found really using the anxiety of change and risk as really something that's part of your motivation?
Well, I do a lot of things. First of all, I have an amazing wife who is a tremendous support, and I talk to her and I talk to others. I mean, one of the things that we have to do, I think, is not sit with our anxiety by ourselves and worry about it and be afraid to talk about it. We need to be willing to have those conversations, because, for us, it just becomes bigger and bigger if we just ruminate over it in our minds. And it's also helpful, to reach out to people and get that support.
Mm-hmm.
And that input. And remember, we're not in this together. And, one of the things I've learned over the last several years is, not to be afraid of collaboration, right? That is so important. So don't be afraid that people will think less of you or will take something from you if you share with them and reach out for help and conversation on something. But yeah, I mean, I think that answered it.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a great gift, and so excited for the work that you're doing, and most importantly, how you're sharing your winning strategies, and just, you are such a champion at bringing other women up and around and supporting. And that is such a huge component of how women win, is just being for each other. And I appreciate you and value that so much. And I'm very excited about the work that you're going to be doing to champion new and change.
No, thank you. And I love your show and the work that you all are doing. I really enjoyed the conversation, and look forward to following you. And thank you for what you're doing.
Great. Kathy, thank you so much for being on this team for us to figure out how women win our way. And team, we'd love to hear your story. We want to be on your support team. You can go to howwomenwin.com. So go out and win your way. Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great week. Thank you, Nona and Kathy.
Thank you, Carla.